What's going on, everybody? We're back in the shop today. I talked in my last video about drive shaft, so I'm making a new, I'm not making it, I'm sprucing up an old used drive shaft for the Willys. It is a nice Spicer drive shaft. This is out of a CJ7 front drive shaft, which just happens to be the perfect length for the Willys with the 4-speed. So you guys are getting the full version. I got Instagram recording over here for the short version. Be sure to check out my Instagram page, Red Eye Cafe Moto, for short daily updates on what I'm doing. Today we're using Napa parts. First thing we're going to do is get these old U-joints out of here. I started cleaning up the drive shaft, but now we got to pull the U-joints out. I don't think these have ever been out, so they're probably original from 1976, so it's hard to say how stuck they're going to be. But one thing that's critical when you're doing this, never get your hammer near this part. If you hit this and crush that snap ring groove, you're never going to get the snap ring back in right. The caps aren't going to go in and out, so when you're beating on it, your needle bearings are going to fall out, so it's a total mess. So you always got to hit down here and use a press or whatever and push on the U-joint itself when you're taking the old one out. So be super careful with these. So for the snap rings, it's super easy. All you need is the needle nose pliers. They go in there like that. Don't need any special tools for a U-joint snap ring. And these have been in there a long time. I haven't touched them before the video, so you can see they're sticking a little bit, but not too bad. So we'll pop all these out. Sometimes you gotta get a little whack, little smack. Okay. Don't reuse these. Your new U-joint will come with new snap rings. There, it's starting to go. There's the other one. Shouldn't need any major persuasion on these. If they do, it's probably because somebody hit that groove before. Another thing, when you put your snap ring back in, if it's real tight like that, see how that gap right here is closing? That means it's not seated. Once it's in the groove, you should have a nice wide gap like that. There, I got all 4 of them out. Once they're out, check for rust or any debris in this groove. The more clean this is, the easier this bad boy is going to come out. Totally doesn't hurt to spray a little lubricant of some sort in there too, but you don't have to. Hoping these come out pretty good. This drive shaft was not very rusty, so I don't think it's going to fight me too much. Alright, I'm going to rearrange the cameras and then we're going to drive them out of there. Okay, I'm not doing anything fancy here. A lot of people would prefer to use a press, which you totally can. But with these old U-joints, I have the caps off. I have it in my vise. And now we're going to hit it. And like I said, don't hit out here, you want to hit right back here. I like to hit right on the weld. You can see it's coming out alright. You don't really have to get too violent with it. Got one cap off. Now come back over here. Same thing. Starting to come. Other caps off, and you just spin it right out. So that's one. I didn't hit that with a hammer at all, so we're good to go. A lot of times if you break one of these out in the woods, you're doing this with rocks, you know, or a giant adjustable wrench. So it's good to get some practice and keep stuff clean and know what tools to pack, because these babies will let loose at the most inopportune time. Alright, so that was one that came out pretty good. Reset my vise. And do it again. Remember, keep your hammer off that the snap ring surface. Just like that. Flip around. Make sure it's not hitting anything it shouldn't. Don't hit your grease fitting. Just like that. If it's not coming and you're hitting it and hitting it and hitting it, stop and look. Make sure it's not like pushing against the yoke or something instead of the cap, because if you hit it enough, or if you're using a press, you can spread these, you can damage the yoke. Then when you go to put it back in, you're going to notice nothing's going to line up. So anytime you're not sure and something seems too hard or it's messed up, just stop, take a minute, and inspect things. So now we got the caps out. I'm going to hit this with the wire wheel, clean the grease out of it, and I have a wire wheel that fits down inside those bores, and we'll get that all cleaned up. My shop is a total mess. When it's cold out, I don't want to be out here, so as soon as I'm done doing something, I don't clean up, I just go inside. So drive shaft is all cleaned up. I just hit it very lightly with some flat black, and now we're gonna put the new joints in. So comes with the grease fitting and new snap rings. A lot of them come with like 2 different styles. Some of them have a whole bunch of snap rings in here. Looks like this just has 4 of the kind that we used. So always think about which way you want your grease fitting pointing before you put it in. I like it pointing away from the transmission, and depending on the design of your drive shaft, usually away from the differential, so they're both pointing in towards the center of the shaft. But just look at how they were on the ones that you removed and copy that, and you should be good. Always try to keep a clean workspace, because you don't want any grit and dirt getting down in those bearings, or you might as well not even do this job. So you don't want to set your U-joint down and get like grinder dirt or anything like that from other jobs inside your bearings. We're all set. Doesn't really matter which end you start from. Take one of your bearing caps out. They have plenty of grease on them on the inside from the factory, so as long as you don't jar them too bad, you're not going to have the needles won't fall out unless you do something stupid. So make sure your cap is started nice and square, and just start putting some pressure on it. Like I said in the other part of the video, if it feels like something's stuck, don't force it. You probably have it in there crooked. It shouldn't take much force to press this in. But do check this, because you need to make sure that you can slip that up in there so you can see how much room you can get. So it looks like I should be able to go all the way with this one before I have to put that in there. So it was a little tight for a second, but it's moving pretty good now. I'm just going to go flush with the cap. Now I'm going to put my grease fitting towards the center of the shaft, make sure none of my needles fall out. And now that side is in. Then you take your other cap and get it started. Now when I get to this point, I move it from that other cap into this cap so that it's engaging both set of needles, because you don't want to jam the needles into the end of the U-joint. So now press this in, and the whole time make sure this should float and be totally free. You can pull these other ones off and set them to this side just so they don't fall off. Just don't get any dings on there or anything. So now we're still floating. So the other one hit a hard spot just like that, but you can see this one, we're still got a little ways to go, and that one's flush. So now just keep working at it. If you have a press, you'd set it in there and put a piece of round stock or something on there, but we're just going to work it slow with the vise until both sides are flush. Making sure that this is floating good the whole way. Okay, so both sides are flush, and you can see it takes very little pressure. So, and our grease fitting is pointed in, so far so good. And I had a socket here. Okay, so now you need something that will press within the yoke. So this 3/4 inch socket is perfect, provided my vise goes out far enough. It does, just barely. So now we have to press that in far enough that I can get the snap ring in. So make sure you're pushing on the cap and not the yoke. And continue to check to make sure that's floating. Just go in little steps. Oh, I went past, but that's okay because I don't have this one in. Don't put this pin on the clip on the other side, because if you press past it, it'll bend that clip out and it'll get stuck, and it's just not cool. So now we can put one clip in. Like I said, I'm not a pro, I'm just showing you how I do it. Okay, now since I didn't smash that, you should kind of hear this go snap. Okay? Boom. If it doesn't freely snap out, it's probably not going to seat in there correctly. And check out the gap on the snap ring. It's in all the way. So now, okay, that one's not going in the groove the whole way, so I might have to go a tiny bit more. It's going in on one side but not the other, so it's either got a little dirt in there or I got to go a tiny bit more. Alright, it is in. Both sides are seated the whole way, and moves nice and free, feels good. So this side's done. Alright, one side is done. Now we repeat the same thing on the other side. Alright, it's done. Both clips in, nice and free. Grease fittings pointing in the right direction. This thing is ready to install. That's it for this project. I'm freezing, going inside. So we have this drive shaft is rebuilt and ready to go. This one has nice tight splines. I will clean the splines off and re-grease it, or just pump a bunch of grease through it and throw some tape on this U-joint and call it a day. I'm not going to install it today because it's freezing out here and I don't need them right now, but But there you go. Thanks for watching. Like I said before, you may find a better way to do it. I'm just showing you how I do it. And if it ever looks like I'm struggling or frustrated, it's probably because I am, because this is real. This is a lot of the stuff I'm doing on here is something I don't do every day, or I haven't done in 10 years. But I try to keep it real and do as little editing as possible, because I'm guessing when you work on stuff you get frustrated as well. And I know when I watch other people's videos and it all goes perfect and they never lose a tool or smash their finger or anything, it's just not as relatable because I do that stuff all the time. So hope this helps you. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll catch you later.